March 13, 2013, I saw a transfer of juvenile Atlantic salmon from a fish farm hatchery near Sayward out to a fish farm on the wild salmon migration route of the Fraser River. Now, I had received an anonymous tip, or not anonymous, I had received a tip that those fish were infected with Piscine reovirus. I refused to reveal my source, and so we went forward with this case without important evidence that those fish were actually infected with the Piscine reovirus. And Marine Harvest in Canada used that against me throughout this. But the case, while it arose from that transfer, was not really about that transfer. It was about whether or not the license that the federal minister is giving to the fish farmers, the Norwegian companies operating in BC, whether they're giving them permission to actually use diseased fish, and whether this is consistent with our Fisheries Act. The Fisheries Act was developed to protect wild fish, wild fisheries, and serve the people of Canada. And so we argued that it was not a good idea, it was not safe to allow the companies to make the decision whether to use diseased fish or not. Now, in the course of this case, Marine Harvest just rewrote the science on Piscine reovirus. They said it's endemic to British Columbia. It's not coming from the farm fish, it's coming from the wild fish. The wild fish are infecting the farms. They said it's not a disease agent. Okay, this is based on an opinion by Dr. Gary Marty, who, granted, is a pathologist, works for the government of British Columbia, but his views have not been published. And so he was trying to refute the science of scientists in Norway with the government, with universities, with pharmaceutical companies, who are all saying they think Piscine reovirus is associated with a disease called heart and skeleton muscle inflammation, which damages the hearts of the fish. The salmon can't swim very well, they cannot get up a river, they can't evade predators, they can't catch food. Marine Harvest called Gary Marty's work the gold standard. My lawyers with Ecojustice picked up on that, and they said if Marine Harvest gold standard is the unpublished work by a government scientist, a government that, by the way, supports salmon farming, that just highlights the importance that the decision whether to use diseased fish really cannot rest with the companies. It has to be a ministerial decision, and it has to be a transparent decision. And Marine Harvest made an interesting argument this morning, their last few moments on the stand. They said, you know, maybe some disease agents, it's okay to put them in a farm. It's okay to have 600,000 to 1 million fish in a fish farm on the migration route of the wild sockeye that have something like, he said, the common cold. Really? Okay, so the common cold is a virus in the influenza family, which is different than Piscine reovirus, but this was his example. The common cold kills people. The common cold, when you allow it to mutate, turns into things like the Spanish flu, which killed millions of people. We have a different vaccine every single year to try to prevent the common cold. Is it really going to be okay to give the wild salmon of British Columbia the common cold and go into an environment where there's killer whales chasing them, where there's sea lions chasing them, where they have to dart after fish and then eventually swim up a waterfall full of eggs? I mean, we never feel very good with the common cold. We go to bed if we can. The wild salmon can't do that. So, in my view, it's very careless to consider allowing the companies to make this decision whether to use diseased fish. And I am so impressed with Ecojustice. My lawyers, Margot Venton and Laura Tesaro, were so well prepared. They're going up against a major corporation and the government. These are organizations that have a lot of money to invest in their legal funds, and they are a non-profit group. These women work very hard. So, you know, thank you so much to Ecojustice for picking this up. The judge said he has reserved judgment. He said don't expect a quick judgment because he wants to read it carefully. This man was extremely sharp. He paid close attention. He asked questions. I feel that I got a fair trial, and I remain hopeful that in the future the license given to these companies will be rewritten so that the companies are not making the decision whether to use diseased fish or not.